All right. We could be live if we are. Thank you so much for joining in. Tonight we have ZS Diamanti joining me on the channel tonight for an episode of the Book Brew, where we talk books while enjoying a brew. And today, my brew is very interesting because the brew was sent to me in a box by Mr. ZS Diamanti right here. And it's
Hopefully
kind
it's
of
still
warm.
fresh.
And we just made this thing like 5 minutes ago. So let's see, can it focus? Let me try the YouTuber trick.
The old hand trick.
It's not working.
It's not working. It's like, no, you don't get it.
But I noticed this right after we made it, but you actually put the sticker on here that's tied to your series, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Tanessa Robius T.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Ruibos, but my narrator just read it to like I heard it today in my from my narrator, and he's British, so I kind of figure he may know how to say his T better than I do. So I
Yeah,
think it was like Roibus, or
Roibus
something.
T.
Roibus T, something like that. I have to listen to it again because I was like, oh, is that how you say that? Because I definitely don't say it that way.
Well, I got it in front of me now, and guess what, everybody? In the box that ZS sent me, or Zach, however you want me to call yourself today, in the box, I have a card here that has a recipe for what is this? Inley's biscuits, right? The
Yeah.
royal biscuits. And guess what we have in front of me? We
Oh,
got
look at
some
those.
glistening biscuits right here,
Those look delicious.
lathered in butter, by the
That's
way.
the right way to do it. That's the right way to do
That's the
it.
Paula Deen method right there.
And then, of course, you got to add some, if you want it to taste like dessert, you got to throw a little honey on there. Drizzle a little honey on.
I got some honey in the
Woo!
tea too, so this is
Oh,
going to be
man.
a good time.
It's going to be
Yeah,
a sweet night.
I was just asking my wife. I was like, "You think there's caffeine in this tea?" Because I'm about to be amped. we
We're
got
gonna be
we
like,
got
whoa,
biscuits
here
and
we
tea.
go.
But hello, Kay.
Hey,
Hello,
Kay.
Herman. We got
Herman,
Brian,
what's up?
Christopher,
Brian.
John,
Oh, look at all
and
these guys.
Steven. Welcome to the chat, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. So, ZS, before I get into questions for you, obviously we're
Yeah.
here to talk to you about your books tonight. I wanted to try a biscuit here and also try this tea here. And it's still warm in my hands. And I have a Kylo Ren mug, everybody.
Yes,
And we
I'm
have a
loving
cool
it.
mug over here too, right?
Yeah. I've got the Hobbit map mug, which is great, and we're just living life here.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad, isn't it? It's
That's
kind of
pretty refreshing.
it's totally different. It's not what I'm used to for my own tea drinking, but it's good,
Wow.
right?
I feel like Mike's books reviews holding this mug right here.
Yes. Yeah.
No, it's really good. But the biscuit, though, okay.
Oh yeah.
Look at that.
Oh, that looks great. It looks like you guys did a great job making those. Oh, it's so good, isn't it? Oh yeah.
Buttery, flaky. That's goodness right there.
Just delicious. In fairness, I'm gonna confess a little bit. One of one of my editors in the editing process, her name is Crystal, and she's a very good friend of ours as well. And she is like a master cook, like all the Southern goodness. She makes it all, and it's so good. And so I told Crystal, I said, listen. Inley's biscuits are royal biscuits because they're the best, and your biscuits are the best. So you have to give me your recipe so I can use
so awesome.
it. And she was like, "You got it." So
you got the biscuits from a person you know. That's amazing. Because I'm thinking over here you pulled it off of like Pinterest or something, but no, this is a real person's recipe.
It's a real deal recipe, man. It's good. It's good stuff.
No, it's great. That's really good. So I see in front of you, you have a stack of books. Well, guess what? I got a stack of books right here too.
And look how colorful and pretty they are. Look at that.
They look so good. I put a picture of these on Instagram a couple days ago just because the colors just look so freaking good. I think you did that intentionally, right? Like you did.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, good job.
The Ruin one, actually, when I first got the first test print, the Ruin one was actually very like orange, kind of like Stone and Sky was. And
Yeah,
so I was like, hang on. Let's
that's
go
not gonna
back
work.
at this thing. Let's make it more crimson. And so we did. And I love the composition of it now, and it's kind of interesting because I've been seeing, you see so many covers lately that are like very busy with lots of little items on it, very dark, but like has all sorts of little random fantasy items and like silvery lettering or gold lettering,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. And I was like, nah, man, I want to go old school. I want it to be like poppin', like old school fantasy, like there's a griffin on the front, like I want an orc on the front of the second one. You know what I
oh,
mean?
yeah.
It was like, I want to go old school and I want it to be poppin' and colorful and fun. And, so far it seems like people like them. So I'm okay with it.
Oh, they look fantastic. I know if John A. Douglas was in here, he would love this cover specifically because we got the orc right there. This looks fantastic.
That's right. He and I talked about that one a lot.
This one, this is not a dragon, right? This is like a
That's a
wyvern.
wyvern. Yeah, that's a
Ah,
wyvern. And in my world, there's a distinct wyvern dragon difference, and in a lot of worlds, a lot of fantasy worlds. But we make it very, very clear some of the differences in my world. So
no, that's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to say that again. The covers look beautiful. I think even, yeah, John saying that Stone and Tide's blue just
oh,
looks stunning. I agree. It looks fantastic. So, and what's crazy is that this book right here just came out like a couple days ago, right? Stone and
days
Ruin.
ago. Yeah, what did we like? Not even a week ago, less than a week ago,
Gee, wow.
on Tuesday. Yeah, so
How's it
crazy.
feel to have the trilogy complete now?
Dude, it's crazy. Like my brain is still trying to, I think I'm still trying to recover like from the last like 2 weeks. It's been mania in our house. We've had like our house has been a warehouse. And I got 4 kids, and my in-laws are visiting. So like not only was the house full already with humans, we also had like boxes lining the hallways and stuff. So it was absolute mania. And I'm still trying to like grasp the fact that, oh wait, I have a whole trilogy done now. Like this is
Yeah.
weird. It's all out and officially, uh, out there for people to see. And it's wild because I'm trying to like take the moment to recognize that the trilogy's done. But like I've got, I was listening to the audiobook version of Stone and Ruin today because, I'm going through the edit review
Uh-huh.
portion of that. And then I know I've got final edits coming back on the next book uh, tomorrow or the next day. So I'm like, dude, I got so much going on. It's like this trilogy is done and out, but like I'm not done and out. So there's
Hmm.
just so much going on still. So I'm still trying to. We've got a little family trip coming, so I think it's gonna be like we'll slow down a little bit, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I did a thing, like
A
get
well-deserved trip.
get a
Okay.
moment to breathe.
Yeah, going back, you said you have 4 children, 4 kids, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
And if we do the math, Stone and Sky came out in 2023, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then you have Stone and Tide, Stone and Ruin, and the Preludes collection, and it's only like halfway through 2024.
yeah, yeah.
How are you alive right now? How are you functioning?
Dude, I'm a lot of tea, a lot of tea.
A lot of tea.
So,
Yes, right here.
and biscuits to keep me going, right? Get some carbs and
Rooibos. Rooibos.
Ruibus, whatever. But oh man, it's been wild. We did the math the other day, and it was like, holy cow! Like I've released four books in 9 months, and it's just like, what? Like, how is that even? That's insane. And it's yeah, the life of an indie author is absolutely right. It's just mania half the time, and so it's been wild. And I've got another book in final edits. I've got another book plotted, which I'll be starting here
My
next
guy.
week. And it just I mean, you got the stories, you got to tell them, right? So got to
Yeah.
keep going.
I want to get into that real quick, but I also wanted to point out Bo's comment right here.
Oh,
I saw his picture of these slipcases, and they
oh
look
man.
stunning. Do you have any right behind? I think they're right behind you, right?
Yep,
Those
yep.
the
These
Kickstarter
guys right
editions.
here, yeah. Here, let me grab this one's really cool. I like the red one because it's just, oh man, it can't. It's
Look at
so
that.
fire, dude. It's so fire. And then it's got like a little quote on the back, and
That is. So is that a wyvern on the back?
that is actually a dragon on the back, believe it or
Oh
not. Dun dun dun.
no! When I saw the cover, of course I saw, this image right here is pretty insane looking. But then I turn it around and you see the dragon back there that looks
Oh yeah.
so freaking menacing. I was like, dang, that that's a good look. That's a good, fantastic look to the book, man.
Yeah, it's been I mean, that was really cool. It's the art was done by a painter named Katerina, and she was awesome. She did great work. I did all the typography and the graphic stuff. Just all the random, formatting things that I had to do.
Hmm.
And just thankfully I have a graphic design background, so it was like, oh okay, I'll do that stuff, save myself some money, because of course when Stone and Sky was coming out I had $0 left, because
Yeah,
I had quit my job to pursue authoring, and it was like, dude, we had scraped all the way to the bottom of the barrel and then like maxed out the credit card all on the like, and of course our credit card, we're like safe people, so we're like, no, 5,000 is max, like that's
yeah,
the most, right? So we were negative 5,000 is basically where we were at. And it was all, hey, like I got nothing left, I better, whatever I can do, make sure I do it, because we got nothing else to pay. Like I can't pay anything to anybody else anymore. So at the time it was like, this is all we got. And so I'm very thankful that all, Stone and Sky has been a hit. People really enjoy it. I wasn't expecting everybody to love classic style fantasy. I thought it was like dead. And so I'm like going into it going, oh geez, like everybody's into this grim dark and
hmm
whatever. And I'm like, oh man, here I go into this wide world. But people love the classic style fantasy, and I was just like, yes, this is awesome. And so thankfully we were able to kind of get out of that hole and kind of get onto a nice rhythm where I can actually work with different people for different things, like a narrator for the books, and it's
hmm
been such a huge blessing since. But yeah, August July, August last year was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're gonna make it. Like, and the book didn't even come out till August 29th, so it
Dang,
was pretty wild.
wow, that is a fantastic story. I was going to get into that in terms of, like, is this your full time gig right now? Because with how many books you're pushing out, I was like, I don't know how you could be doing this on the side. So now it's making sense. So
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
put,
had to make it my full time gig.
hmm
It was like when I quit my job, it was like this is what I was gonna do, right? Like it was, I had written the first book. My wife had read it, and she was like, yeah, no, this is legit. Like, and she'll tell me if it's not, right? Like, I used to play guitar and sing, and I did shows and stuff. And, there was a one point where I was like, man, I don't know, maybe I should try like America's Got Talent or something. And she's like, nah, babe. Nah, like, so my wife is like legit, like, she'll tell me if something's not like, nah, it's not worth pursuing, right? So, uh, when she was like, no, I think you should go for this. You really ought to. I was like, okay, we're going to do it then. And, it was like, we got to do this right. And it was like, I think I quit my job, and it was almost exactly a year after I quit my job that Stone and Sky released. And it was like, holy cow, like that's a lot of work and a lot of working towards something and using the savings, and like, my wife's a bus driver, so like we were moving things around trying to make things happen. And so it was a huge leap of faith. And I was still doing some graphic design stuff on the side, to
yeah,
kind of help out. But once Stone and Sky came out, I immediately had to start turning graphic design jobs down because I didn't have time anymore,
hmm
because all of a sudden the book was out, and it was like, holy cow, now I got to keep up with all this stuff. It got crazy.
Did the shelves behind you, did they come before or after you quit your actual job?
So the shelves behind me actually came shortly after I quit my job. The I didn't have, TikTok or anything. Like my social media presence was like nothing. Uh February of 2023, last year, my social media presence was almost nothing. I don't use it like personally. It's not something I use personally to like, show
Mhm.
photos of my friend of my kids or whatever. I don't do it. My wife does, and I was like, I don't have to do it. She does that for all the family and friends. I don't have to do it. Well, okay, if I'm going to be an author, I got to have a social media presence because I got to sell books somehow, right?
Yeah.
I got to get out there in front of people somehow. And so I had zero social media presence, and it was like, I guess I'm going to have a social media presence. And as I was doing it, and I was looking at things, I was like, you know what? I need to have like a space that's good for filming while I'm doing this. And so I had a library built upstairs in the other room, and I was like, I don't want to film upstairs. That stinks. Like that's going to be terrible. And I'd already built a library in the last two houses that we, lived in. So I was like, you know what? We've done this before. We know how much it costs. If we paint it right, we do it right, it'll be worthwhile because it'll be a great background. People will be really interested in it. And man, it has been this was like one of the best investments we made for the author business, because it did. People, were like, wow, beautiful bookshelves. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, great. Hey, I mean, and they started engaging me on social media, and it worked beautifully. So
No, I think in my video maybe a month ago or so,
yeah.
when I was doing the bookshelf battle. I mean, you're a shelf lord, man. You got
Yeah,
the
I
top
know. I
title.
love it. Cheers to that, man. I was laughing in the comments with some of the other guys, like, "Hey, so I guess we'll just make our pantheon of shelf lords now, shall we?" But that's so cool. I mean,
You and C.A. Bruno. I know you guys are shelf lords. Yeah.
it was so great, man. That was awesome. That was a good video, by the way. I
Thank you.
showed my wife that, and she was like, "Well, look at you." And I was like, "I told you this shelf would come in
It's
handy."
a good shelf. Okay.
Uh, it is. It's a good shelf. It took a lot of hard work. It took us a couple weeks to build it, but boy, I tell you what, it was worth it.
I love how your wife is like a realist and just tells you up front,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
she
that's
is.
not gonna work. Yes, this will work. This,
Yeah, she calls it like it is, which is absolutely phenomenal. She's also the numbers person, so she's very like keen on all the things, which is great. And she keeps me tracking with logistics. Like over the last couple of weeks, it's been, like I said, it's been mania. In my brain, it's mania, and our house is just filled with boxes, and it's like a logistical nightmare. For her, it's like, okay. And she just like puts it all together. She's like, okay, here's this list. You got to sign all these books, get them over here where we'll get them all boxed and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I love you so much because I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. Okay, yes, ma'am. Just a sign away. Like it was awesome, man. I took a picture like behind the wall
yes,
of books, and it was just like
that was wild.
this is like my view today. This is crazy. I can't even see over this like wall. It was so cool.
Was that wall of books for Stone and Ruin? Was that like pre-orders or like where was all those books going to?
Okay, so that was just one of the walls of books on my table, and that I guess it was a wall, but it was like 5 layers like thick, right? So it was like 5 stacks thick. It was crazy. That specific wall was only the hardcovers from the
Oh,
Kickstarter.
got it.
So that was the hardcovers for the Kickstarter, and then we did. So I think the hardcovers for the Kickstarter, it was like 157 boxes or something. And then how sore were your wrists? It was, I'm telling you, there was a lot of this going on. Like, okay, here we go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And my eyes crossing, like as I'm like, how many times did I write? Wait, hang on. What does this one say? What are we writing to this person? But then like we did like 157 boxes of the hardcovers, and many of those had all 4 books or multiple books, right? And then we did like 150 something boxes, of the pre-orders the week before,
Mhm.
or like 4 days before that. And then we've also had, a good, I don't know, 50 other boxes, over the last couple days prior to the release. And it was just mayhem. But all credit goes to my wife. She's a logistician to the max. So she just
No,
walked by and gave me like a
no, I understand that. That's a very great asset to have
yeah.
in-house. Look at that.
Yes.
So real quick, getting to the books themselves, right? From Stone and Sky all the way to Stone and Ruin. Right.
Yeah.
The one that I've read is the tiniest one here, with that being the Preludes collection. And
Yeah.
I didn't read this one. I listened to it because the audio version of this one, man, was fantastic. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
narrator's name is Peter Lepard.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Peter Lepard, and he is I, fantastic, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. It's funny because I sought him out. Like I went and I found him.
Hmm.
Um, there was a couple other people that I sent things to. Names that I already knew, narrators that like I'd listened to books that they'd read before. So I was kind of familiar with their voice and their cadence and that kind of stuff. But we sent out, I think it was to like 6 different narrators, and I went through all the listings of narrators, listened to sound quality, then I listened to voice samples, and then I went through and okay, let's just do the first round. Hopefully we find the guy to do these books in the first round. That would be great. If not, no big deal. We go back, we keep going through the lists, and
Yeah.
we get to him eventually, right? And he was one of the guys that I was like, no, I I got a good feeling about this guy. I want to throw him in the mix, right? And so we sent out sample pages with different characters and different scenes. Like one was kind of like an action, like fast-paced scene, and one was like this, this like duke it out, like kind of romantic tension scene, and then one was like an orc scene, like some orcs talking together. And so that's what we sent out, and his was like the second one that I listened to. I waited till we got them all back from all 6 of them, and it was
Mhm.
like, okay, that way I can listen to them all, like, and I'm not stewing on one for a couple of days, and then I'm like, maybe that is maybe not. No, I want to hear them all like pretty close so I can decide. And Peter was one of those kind of unknown guys that I threw into the mix. And his was the second one I listened to. And my wife was sitting in the chair over there, and she's like, "Oh, that's your guy." And like not even a minute in, and I'm like, "Hey, stop! Like we still got like all these other ones we still have to listen to, right?" And she's like, "No, that's your guy. That's your guy." I was like, "Stop! Let's listen. Let's finish." And so we finished and listened, and at the end, I was like, yeah, I think you're right. I think he's my guy. Like we gotta go back. So went back.
Mhm.
Peter is amazing. One of the things that I've been joking with him through the whole process is like, dude, you're gonna be huge. Like don't forget me. Don't forget me. Like when you are this massive narrator guy and you got like people kicking down your doors to get you to narrate their books, don't forget me. He's like, oh, I'll never forget you, bro. This is amazing. And so like we've actually grown a really great friendship through the process. And he's a dad and he's got kids, and we've got a lot in common. So it's been a really nice experience going through this narrating of audiobooks for this classic fantasy.
Mhm.
And it's just been wild because it was something I always wanted to do, but it wasn't something I thought I would get to do right away. And it came on so much quicker than I thought.
Was this Peter's first narration, or did he have prior works?
Yeah, so he's done some like voiceover work, and he was a stage actor before, and
Oh,
so
cool.
yeah, now he's done some voiceover work for like some commercials and some like business, things. And he does have a couple of books that he's narrated before mine. But I think it was like 2 books that
Mhm.
I saw on his list before mine. And then I was like, dude, you want to just go all the way? I got 4 of these. You want to just let's go? And I can happily say, by the way, the next book that I have coming out later is he and I have already discussed it, and he's on board for narrating the next book too, which is
There
super
we
awesome.
go.
But I also know that he's got authors lining up now to try and get him
Wow.
to come and read books for them. And of course, now that like we've grown close, and so now he's kind of sharing some of the things that people are reaching out about, and I'm like, that's so cool, man. Like, because it's very exciting, because I was like this no-name author coming onto the scene, and he's like this no-name narrator coming onto the scene, and it's like, look at us go. Like, look at us. Look at us.
That is a fantastic story to see that happen.
Yeah,
And I
he's
know
so good.
from talking with Michael R. Miller, who's the author of the Songs of Chaos series,
Yeah, Michael's
that for
great.
him, he's an awesome guy. For him, his series, it really just like shot through the roof when he released the audio versions of his Songs of Chaos books. Like when you came into this, like did you come into the intent of wanting to release an audiobook, or were you thinking, what, let's see how the ebook does first, let's see how the physical book does first, and then we'll go into it? Like how did you come into saying, what, I want to do an audio version as well?
Yeah, I came in, the plan was always to do an audio version. When I was at that negative $5,000 zone, I was not sure when it was going to happen. There was like, well, I can't have any like near goals, because I'm not really sure what's going to happen, right? And so once the book came out and people were actually enjoying it, I was like, oh, okay, cool, this is great. And then I started planning from there and going, okay, like this is a realistic goal now, let's try and figure out how we're going to make this happen. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was always a plan. And actually, one of the things, I actually reached out to Michael about audiobooks, because
Oh.
obviously I was working on my audiobooks, and hey, you do audiobooks really great. Talk to me about talk to me about this part, and talk to me about this part. And he was gracious enough to, give me some insight, and even, connect me with somebody else who he's like, he does audiobooks wide, go talk to him. So, it, like, I love that about the indie author community, is like everybody's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. Like, if that's going to work for you, great. If not, hey, why don't you talk to so and so? They're doing it a little different than I am. It's I love that.
Did you go through ACX, or was it outside of ACX?
Yeah, I went through ACX, which was advice I got from S.L. Rowland. He's the author of Sentenced to Troll and Pangea Online, and Sword and Thistle, and Cursed Cocktails is probably the one most people know him for now. But he's another author that I connected with, and I knew he had a bunch of audiobooks, and I was like, bro, and I was like, talk to me here. Like, what am I getting into? And so he was gracious enough to help me out with a whole bunch of stuff. I had started a TikTok shop, and I was helping him with that. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that's just the best part about the indie author community, is like everybody's like, yeah, I'm doing this. How are you doing that? Like, it's so great.
Going into that, I know you're also a part of a little group known as the Break-ins,
Yeah.
right? With
Hashtag the
Josh
break-ins.
and Scott and Caden and so many others as well. Even Callum here as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you
He and I were
came into
messaging
the
just
Break-ins.
an hour ago.
You came in like a little bit later to that group, right? Wasn't it towards like the tail end? Like I think you missed a message, or you got sick, right? You got
Yeah.
sick for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a message from Scott at one point, and it was hilarious, because he was like, hey, we're kind of setting up this like, you know, Discord with some authors. Like, we're gonna be like, you know, I was literally pestering him an hour ago. Yeah, no, it was one of those moments where I'm doing something and he was like, "How are
Mhm.
you doing that?" kind of thing. But no, Scott reached out and he's like, "You want to be a part of this group?" And I got the message. I was like at a conference or something, and I got the message, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta remember to reply to that." But for me, if my thing ticks it off as read, I will never look at it again until like somebody remessages me and I'm like, "Oh
Mhm.
no, oh my gosh, I so forgot," like whatever. But I actually got so sick after that conference. I was sick for a month. Like, I was fevering for like a week, like a
Jeez almighty.
whole week. It was like 103-degree fever. It was horrible. And my brain was fried. And then, like, for 3 weeks after, I was still trying to like get my brain back, and it just wasn't working. And so I completely forgot about it. And then I get Nicholas Fuller reaches out to me. He's like, "Hey, dude, these guys said they invited you. Where you at? Are you joining this group?" And I was like, "Oh crap!" Like, dude, yeah, I totally forgot. Like, I was so sick. My brain was so fevered. I completely forgot. And I spaced on a lot of things for that month. That was a rough month,
I'm
but
sure. Mhm.
and so I jumped in, and I think it was myself and a couple other people right after me, and then it was like, okay, this is big enough. If we get too big, like if we have too many more people in this group, we're not even going to be able to like
Yeah.
hear each other and help each other, and it's just going to be too much chaos going on. And so yeah, it's a great size group. Everybody's always talking about all sorts of different things. People are asking, "Hey, do you guys do your hardcovers through this company or this company?" And "Hey guys, what do you think about this cover? I'm like, tell me if this one feels more balanced or this one feels more balanced, or whatever." We're always talking about all sorts of stuff and like totally cheering each other on. And the break-ins is pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I agree with you. I mean, look over here. This shelf is like almost all break-ins right there, and
you
that's
you
without
put
yours.
yeah that's
Okay.
without the 4 stack there. Yeah.
So,
Oh
no,
man,
I think it was a great move by you, even though you came in a little bit later. The move in there happened eventually, and I'm really happy
totally.
it did. So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
into your series real quick, the one that I
Yeah,
read, right, Prelude,
yeah, yeah.
I had a fantastic time going
Oh
through this
good,
book.
man.
It was just like it was so much fun. It was like refreshing because, like you were saying earlier, there was so much grimdark out there, which
Yeah,
I like grimdark too. So I'm not gonna say
sure,
it's bad or it's overused or overplayed because I'm a grimdark fan. I like Game of Thrones.
totally.
I like E.J. Doble's books as well. First Law, love it. But it was just a different
Yeah.
feeling coming into Preludes. It felt is cozy the right word? Will you describe this as cozy?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of cozy nods for sure. And I think the reason it feels cozy is because it's not necessarily cozy. There are some like even one of the stories is kind of scary. Like, it's
Yeah, I remember that.
creepy, and you're like, ooh, like, ooh. And so it's not like totally cozy, but I think what it really is it's nostalgic. And people get that nostalgia, like coming home kind of vibe, because they're reading this classic style fantasy, like the ones they remember getting from the library and getting from the library over and over and over, getting
Mhm.
a Redwall over and over again, getting Dragonlance over and over again, those old school fantasies. And it kind of feels like coming home when there is so much grimdark around, right? And so I wasn't sure it was going to work because of all the popular thing was grimdark, but it turns out people need that breath of fresh air. And I was like, this is excellent because this is the book I wanted.
Mhm. So you wrote what you wanted to listen to or read. So it shows that what you want, other people want it as well, and I can attest to that as well. I think what's really interesting about this one, like you're saying, it's just a collection of different stories of are these all main characters? Are these like side characters in the story, like in the main series itself?
Yeah. So one of the things that happened was I wrote Stone and Sky, and that was my first full-length novel. Before everything that I wrote was, short form fiction, or short form literary nonfiction, or short form horror. All short
Mhm.
form stuff. And so, and that's kind of what I cut my teeth on. I love that stuff. And so when I finished writing Stone and Sky, like, I finished writing it, and there were all these characters that I was like, man, like, I wish I had more page time with these guys. Like, I want more time with these guys. And I thought, this could be really interesting reader magnet, because it's what I give away as my reader magnet for
Mhm.
anybody who wants to join my readers list. They can come, and it's like, come read 7 fantasy stories for free about characters that you meet in the Stone and Sky series,
Good
right?
deal. That's a good
Right,
deal.
totally. And you're gonna get all 7 of these stories. You're gonna get to meet all these characters, and it was kind of fun because I got to like think about which characters I wanted to use. And like Merrick plays like a huge role in book 1, like whereas like Smarlo plays a huge role in book 2. And so some of the characters have smaller roles in book 1, but then they kind of get bigger roles in book 2 or 3.
Mhm.
And some of them are just like really small side characters, and then you don't even see them again until book 3. Like, you see them for like a chapter in book 1, and then you don't see them again until book 3, which is so fun because like I was getting that kind of feedback from fans, like while I was writing like into book 3, which was great because people are like, oh my gosh, is so and so coming back? Because, oh my gosh, I love them. I want them to come back so bad. And for me, it was like, that's great because I love them and I was going to bring them back anyway. So this is great. You're going to love the next one.
It's a win-win. Okay.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everyone. And I really thought it would just be really fun to like write these stories about these characters like right before you meet them in Stone and Sky. So like when it's
Mhm.
read Tobin's story before chapter 23 in Stone and Sky, right? And so if you read Tobin's story right before you read chapter 23, well, that's when Tobin's going to appear in Stone and Sky. And so
That's so
I thought
cool.
it's kind of a really fun, like, hey, like you can read it as a companion kind of thing. And then I've had people who like read the whole thing before they read Stone and Sky, and they're like, dude, it was like every time a character would pop up, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I know them. It was like meeting up with an old friend, and like felt like in D&D, like, oh my gosh, it's you again. Like, so cool. And I just thought that was the neatest thing.
I'm going down that path right now because I went through this book first, and I really liked how you had that like in between or before each story. You have read before chapter 1,
Yeah, right,
right?
right.
So you know when to expect this character is going to pop up in the main series. So I just thought that was so cool, and it shows
Yeah.
that you're also really organized. Or if is it you who's organized, or is it your wife who's organized?
Okay, I wasn't so much organized until like halfway through writing Stone and Sky. And then I realized, okay, this is a full-fledged novel, which is not the same as all the short works that I've done. So I got to really like organize myself. And so I've actually gotten a really great a plotting like method for myself that works really well. I came up with it while I was working through Stone and Sky, and I've used it for every book since. And Stone
Interesting.
and Sky took me a couple of years to write. Stone and Tide took me like 3 months to write. Stone and Ruin took me, it was technically 2 months of active writing with a month
Oh my
of
god.
sickness in the middle. So,
Jeez.
and the one I've got with the last editor right now, that one took me about a month and a half. All because I've got a pretty like solid plotting method that works for me, and works for the way that I'm wired. So
Wow. Well,
yeah.
you probably share those secrets with the break-in, which is great because it sounds like that method is working for you tenfold. I was actually going to get into that because we talked about it a little bit ago, or a little bit ago, and I know you talked about it on Kay's stream as well a few days ago. In terms of you got something else going on in the behind the scenes. You just had a book release a couple of days ago, but now you
Yeah.
have something behind the scenes that you're working on.
Yeah,
So
that's basically done.
wow.
Actually, I should have final edits back tomorrow or the next day. and I've already done a test format of the book. And I should have it formatted with the edits and have a test print, because we do a proofread with a print. Like we'll do a test print of the book and the way it's supposed to actually look.
Mhm.
And then we'll do a proofread through that, because you kind of find formatting errors or just like little glitchy things that happen
Yeah.
during formatting. And occasionally you'll find a couple like, oh, hey, we must have missed that in editing. Like, let's
Oops.
mark that and go get that before we do the final, the final version, right? So, that's the stage we're at right now, waiting for the final edits, and I'll throw the final edits into the formatting and send it off for printing, and we'll get it going. But
There we go.
yeah, that one, it's kind of cool because I've been like slowly, progressively getting a little further ahead of myself, which is good because, I've been working so doggone hard. Like I've had many, many weekends that I've worked through the weekend, which isn't the best. I need to do better at resting and that kind of thing. And so, we're getting to the point where like the books are getting done a little bit earlier. So now I'm like a little ahead, which makes it
Mhm.
so I don't have to work every weekend and that kind of thing. So it's getting better. Like Stone and Tide, I finished the revisions on like a couple of days after Stone and Sky came out, which was pretty close. I know my goal was like to finish it before Stone and Sky comes out. I didn't do it. Stone and Ruin, I was actually done with with my revisions before editing, before it goes through the 3 rounds of editing. I was done with my revisions like a month before Stone and Tide came out. So I was like, okay, I'm getting a little further ahead. And then this other book that's coming out a little bit later, that one's been done for probably a month and a half. And so I'm like, okay, slowly but surely, we're just going to keep getting a little further ahead. And it's been a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine it's been a little bit crazy for you. For this next project after Stone and Ruin, is it
Yeah.
still in fantasy or is it in a different genre? Or is it still to be announced?
Yeah, I haven't talked a lot about it, but we'll give some nuggets here. We'll give some nuggets. Um, the one that's already ready or is in final edits right now, it is still fantasy, and it's a different vibe because we got Stone and Sky is a classic style epic fantasy adventure, right? Like
Mhm.
the old school stuff, right? The one that's done is a little bit of a different vibe, maybe some more cozy vibes, and
There we go.
some
Cozy
different
vibes.
things. It kind of approaches a little different. This one's this huge, epic, sprawling fantasy with multi POV. That one's a little more personal and on the ground. So it's what I can say is my editor. All my editors have told me that it's their favorite book that I've written. And my final editor said, this is your best book. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, dang, and that's high praise because she'll tell me when I'm wrong too. So you got to have good people who will tell you when you're wrong. But that
Yeah.
was pretty high. I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. So I'm pretty excited about that one. And I definitely have to do I definitely have to set up a cover reveal here in the coming weeks for sure. Cause that's, it's the cover is done now and it's in my hands and waiting for me to do something fun like that.
Hmm. Oh, that's exciting. I love how cozy fantasy is kind of making a not resurgence, but an emergence right now. With
Yes.
I know Herman. I don't know if he's still on or not, but he has a cozy fantasy is coming out here very soon as
Yeah.
well with the Last
It's
Bartender.
Bartender Between Worlds. Yeah.
Look at
He's
that.
got he's
Yes.
got got a Kickstarter happening right now. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Now, I haven't read really too much cozy fantasy. Yeah, besides, if you consider this
Well,
to be cozy.
this will just warm me up for it.
There we go.
That's no, and I got all sorts of great projects. I mean, there's a whiteboard like right there where you guys can't see it, like where I can see it all the time, and it's my writing and releasing schedule for all the way through September of 2026, and so like I'm looking at all these books and like
Let's just turn the camera around real quick. Let's just
yeah,
check
you
it
want
out.
me to just I before we got on, you saw a whiteboard like hanging out over here, but I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I got to move that. That's my big whiteboard because this one wasn't big enough for all the things I needed to put on it." So I had to go get a bigger whiteboard, but I got all sorts of fun projects coming up. Like the next book I get to write is a horror novella, which is really exciing, and it's a
Horror
contract
novella. No
book
way.
with a publisher, which I'm super stoked for. I got
Wow.
then I've got a sci-fi that I'm going to be working on later this summer, and then I've got the next. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. It's the next trilogy within the world
Ooh.
of Stone and Sky that I'll be starting later on in the fall. So the Stone and Sky trilogy is complete. It's done. The story is complete, but the world of Finlastia is just so big and vibrant and fun. I was like, man, there's so many more stories we could tell in this world. So I'm really excited about that too.
My guy, you're a busy man. You got a lot going on. But that's so exciting. So you have a contract booked in the work. You said it's horror though.
Yeah,
Have
it's
you
a horror novella. Yep. Mm-hmm.
have you read a lot of horror like before?
So when I was starting to write, a lot of my short form fiction was horror,
Oh,
very very classic style gothic. I'm kind of an old school dude, like if you guys couldn't tell, but I got it's very classic style gothic style horror, like creature feature horror. Like I don't do like all the blood and guts and like blah, like I do the
yeah.
creep factor, right? That's my favorite thing about horror. And so yeah, yeah, I know I'm letting my tongue is letting a few things loose today because I've done
It's the tea. It's the
it's the
tea.
tea. The tea's getting me. But yeah, that one's I've written a lot of horror in the past, and I've published quite a few short stories that are in the horror genre, and so it's very exciting actually that um, these guys reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this project that we're doing?" And I was like,
Yes.
"Hey, let's talk about it," right? And so that's pretty cool. I'm really excited about that one. That one's going to be really interesting, and my the people who have come around and loved Stone and Sky, they may or may not love that one, but hey, if they loved Smarlow, they'll probably like it more than they think.
There we go. I'm also excited for the sci-fi work that you're going to work on as well, because if you can tell behind me, I'm a huge sci-fi fan.
I
I
know
think
they're so pretty.
I think I'm a little bit more of a sci-fi fan than fantasy, so that's going to be
Yeah,
interesting to have a sci-fi Diamanti on our hands.
yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, that one's gonna be really fun. Yeah, it's that one's actually technically been in the works for a few years. So it's kind of interesting that I kind of get to go after, like I kind of get to go at it here later in the summer. And it's kind of really exciting because I'm like this story's been sitting with me for a couple of years, so it's time to go and get this one. Yeah,
You got it. We're going to read it.
John thinks it.
There we
Uh,
go.
yeah, me neither. So hey, that's how I write. And yeah, that's kind of
Atmospheric.
how my
Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
atmospheric is perfect. Yeah, that's great. And that's kind of how I write everything. It's always like I kind of I steer clear of like the gratuitous violence
Hmm.
and the swearing and the and any of the sex. Like I kind of I'm like I don't need any of that. I just want to tell a really good story and let's go have
Mhm.
some fun with this. And you can have the creep factor and you can have the, battle scenes and you can have all the things and the devastating emotion. Kay was getting on me. Kay called me out in a video just the other day. She's like, Mr. Diamanti, let's have a chat. Chapter 18. What the heck? No, it's like you can have those things and those emotional gut checks without needing all that other stuff. So I was like,
Mhm.
hey, that's what I like to read, so I'm gonna go with it.
All I know is if Peter Lepard, your narrator, does that shrieking sound again in your future book,
My
I'm sold.
gosh.
We're good because that's those some good shrieks in there. That's
Yeah,
what made it so
dude.
freaking creepy.
It's so creepy, right? I remember because like I wrote the story and I know what I put in there to make it creepy. And man, he just nailed that. Like I remember listening to it and I was like, oh, nice, dude. Like it was funny because like the whole family was listening to it together as the first review because it was kind of fun to like for the whole family to hear, look,
Mhm.
this is dad's book, like this is so cool. And I remember that scene kind of came in and we were all like looking around like, oh, that was awesome. So yeah, Peter does an amazing job.
But do we get more of that like in the future in the main series? Because
he
I want more
he
of that.
definitely throws some things in there,
There we
so
go.
definitely be on the lookout. But and his
Yes,
voices are just the best, man. Like he
coolest dad
just
right here.
I try. They don't think so sometimes when I'm working all weekend, but like I'm working on that.
Hmm. Now I wanted to ask you. Yeah, it seems like you're rocking at everything right now in terms of publishing books out. In terms of like everything you got going on, what's like the most challenging thing to you, like throughout your day, or what's the thing that is the biggest like speed bump for you?
Yeah, so one of the things that happens is occasionally when we're like in the middle of running a Kickstarter, sometimes like going into the Kickstarter is there's a lot of craziness. You're working on so many like random things to get things ready, and going into a Kickstarter is mania. Like you got to have all your different, social media posts ready, and you got to have all these different things ready just in case. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the just in case game, right? And the just in case game is like a little bit crazy for me. And so what happens is I'll end up getting off my game a little bit, and so like I won't like I'll miss my workouts. And what I found over the last year and a half has been like I really need to hit my workouts because me personally, it's like I need it for the adrenaline and for releasing the tension and
Mhm.
keeping my mind and body healthy is so vitally important for me. And I find that like sometimes I get into work mode and like my brain is like, no, I gotta get this done. Like I gotta get this done today. Gotta get this done today. And so if I kind of get off my workout game and I'm like off for a week, my week is like garbage. Like I do terrible. And it's like I don't get all the things done that I was supposed to be working on. And I don't get, writing done. And it's just miserable. And so I've found that over the last year and a half, like I gotta get my workout in. Otherwise, it like kind of derails my whole day.
Mhm.
It's strange, but it's one of those things that I know that if I mess up on that, I'm gonna have a rough day.
Are you a morning workout guy or like afternoon?
Yeah, so I'm totally a morning workout guy. Now, in fairness, I can actually work out right before lunch too, which is fine. But the problem is when I get into summer and the kids are all home and everybody's home, like working out right in the middle of the day, right before lunch. Like I'll go to work out and everybody's like, "We're hungry, we're ready for lunch," And I'm like, oh, I should have worked out this morning. So like I definitely have to hit it in the morning,
Mm,
otherwise I get in trouble.
no, I'm right there with you. I know, like the days where you miss the workout, you feel like, oh, day's ruined. What am I gonna do now? It's just not the same. So I understand you, man.
It's not the same. You feel so accomplished and like pumped and ready to go after,
Hmm.
right? So it's good.
I think you can kind of tell from the vibe we put out on social media. Maybe ZS worked out today, or maybe he didn't, because
You
the
could
energy and the
totally tell.
gifs are different.
You could totally tell. Yeah, go back and watch any of my videos. You'll be like, man, he forgot to work. He missed the workout that day.
Now, I wanted to ask about your social media, because I know you're also rocking it there too, in terms of you're blasting videos off and pictures on Threads, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, and oh yeah, Twitter or X, whatever you call it.
Yes.
So you're rocking things out in every which way, which is amazing. But like, do you put more? I think you probably put more effort into TikTok because that's where your biggest audience is, right?
Yeah, so TikTok was the big one that I focused on to start, and a lot of the growth kind of on some of the other platforms was kind of vicarious TikTok, overflow, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. And people who enjoyed what I was doing over at TikTok, they're like, "Oh, is he over here?" And "Is he over here?" And just kind of following me elsewhere. I think is what I got a lot of overflow on that, especially to like Instagram and Facebook, but like Twitter and Threads was a whole new beast for me, man. And it's like, and I had some people going over to YouTube and stuff, but YouTube has been kind of a different beast on its own as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is super cool because I'm almost at 1,000. Kay made a post about this the other day that she was like, "Did you guys know ZSD Buddy has a YouTube and he's almost at 1,000?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I am." And I was like, and I do, yeah, that's true. And I was just like, at this point, like I have to think of the milestones, but it's strange because I don't think about the milestones because that's just not the way I was naturally wired. Like, again, I didn't use social media like personally, so it wasn't it
Yeah.
wasn't a thing for me. And then it was like, okay, well, now I'm doing this author thing and I got to do it right. So I was like, Book Talk was apparently where it was at, so I got to go there, and I've been able to build a pretty great audience over there. And um, a lot of those people came right into the release of Stone and Sky with me, which is
Mm-hmm.
why that was such a big deal and so helpful right out the gate. And it's funny because like my Twitter was dead. I think I had like, I don't know, maybe maybe 40 people on my Twitter or something, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Matt from Beard of Darkness, he was like, he was one of the first guys to reach out to me and be like, "Hey, bro, I want to interview. I want to do a thing." And I was like, "Okay, sure, like that's great." And after we were done, off the air, he was like, "Bro, are you on Twitter? You got to be on Twitter. Like, why aren't you on Twitter?" I'm like, "Dude, Twitter, what? Twitter? Like, it's dead, right? Like, it's dead. Like, there's nobody on that, right?"
Uh,
And he was like, "No, you got to be on it. You got to be on it." And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, I'll try to connect you up with some people. And he did. And, I started connecting and started getting the hang of Twitter
mm-hmm.
and hanging out with everybody and interacting. And I was like, okay, yeah, all right. I can get this. This makes sense. And Threads kind of operates in similar ways too. So it's been really interesting. And I like every social media has its own like vibe. Like YouTube shorts like I'll post something that I posted on TikTok and it did terrible, but I'll
Yeah.
post it on shorts and it'll do great. And I'm like, okay.
No, I'm actually,
Everyone has a vibe, and you're just trying to figure out what the vibe is for each one.
no, I'm right there with you. With sometimes I don't understand why one does better than the other. Like just yesterday, I posted the same video on TikTok and YouTube Shorts,
Yeah.
and like on TikTok, it got 12 views, and then on YouTube Shorts, it got like 2,000. I was like,
Right.
I don't
What?
understand
You're
what's
like,
going on here.
what? I don't know what to do here. I mean, yeah, I had one on so on TikTok I've had many go pretty viral, like do pretty well, not like in the millions, but I've had many do like, 400,000, 700,000, or something like that, which is great.
Thing,
And
yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
all right, let's go, right? That's great. And you think, wow, this must be such a great video. And then you like try it on Instagram and it's on Reels and it's like 1,000. And you're
Crickets.
like,
All right.
All right. I don't know. I don't know what to do with you.
Thank you, algorithm. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for that. Appreciate that. I don't know what to do with that.
Well, I know we're getting close to the end of this thing, but I wanted to just ask you one more question and then just give the floor to you real quick. I
Sure.
know on when you were on Kay's channel, you talked a little bit about Star Trek. And
Yeah.
as a sci-fi fan, I'm also a pretty big fan of Star Trek as well. But actually, I have all the movies in like DVD collector's edition. But now DVDs aren't even.
I know. I have them downstairs as well.
Yeah, I have them all because my buddy gave them to me a while back because he had the Blu-rays. Right? He's
Yeah.
like, I don't need these
Yeah.
DVDs anymore. I'm like, okay, I'll
You're
take them.
like,
But
well, I'll take your treasure. Yeah,
but
please.
going to the question here, going back, has Star Trek influenced you at all with your writing, your future books? Because from what I remember in your chat with Kay, it was a pretty big part of your life. So like, how much does Star
Yeah.
Trek influence you at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, tons. I know I'm writing in a fantasy setting, but one of the things that Star Trek does like really well is like all the different alien races have like their own different cultures, and they're very segmented. Like sure there's overlap, of course, because people are people just in general, right? But I appreciate that. um, but it's Star Trek does really well, or at least the old Star Trek really did well, was that the cultures for the different alien races were also different and unique, and they had different experiences. And so one of the things that you kind of find as you read it through my books, like they're all people, but they do all have their kind of own cultures and kind of how they act, kind of what their mentality is, like honor versus glory, or chivalry versus strength, all these different kind of things that are important to them. And Star Trek does that beautifully, like crazy beautifully. And so
Hmm.
I definitely gleaned a lot of that from Star Trek for sure, because I've watched so much Star Trek over the years, and I have a gajillion Star Trek books, of course.
Hmm.
But that is definitely a huge part. And I always loved in Star Trek the tensions and the unique circumstances that came about because of the different cultures, right? Those kinds of episodes were just so much fun, because they're like, well, why would you eat that? That's disgusting. And they're like, but we love this. This is our thing. Like, it's just all the different nuanced things that each culture would have. And of course, in a fantasy world, you're like, I'm going to create all sorts of different types of people. We're going to have orcs, we're going to have goblins, and even they don't get along so great. And then we're going to have humans, and we're going to have elves, and we're going to have dwarves, and we're going to have deep gnomes, and we're going to have these things called chelons, which are basically turtle people. And we're going to have and you just get to have so much fun. And then you get to kind of come up with cultures and stuff for them all, and like different anecdotes, and even like the way they speak and their languages and their names and stuff like that. It's fun. That kind of thing was super fun to do. And I think I get a lot of that like inspiration and influence from Star Trek for sure.
No, I can just feel the influence or the excitement from you, just radiating off of you into these books. So that's super exciting. I'm a big fan of Star Trek as well. So I'm excited to get further into your series because I feel bad now. I've only read this tiny one. So I need to get further into these stories, man.
Apparently, I write them faster than people can read them. I don't. I
You're the new Brandon Sanderson over here. Okay.
Gosh, no. Caden's been giving me that a lot lately.
So I
Oh
wanted
gosh.
to leave the floor to you real quick with any closing statements that you have for whoever's watching up until this point into the video or whoever is still here with us live right now. It can be, about your books. It can be about your TikTok, about your free stories on your website as well.
Totally. Yeah.
So whatever you got, man. Oh,
Yeah.
one more
Hey.
thing. I got to take one more bite.
Oh yeah, you get it in there. The
Oh,
goodness,
good.
right? It's so good.
It's still
It's so
good.
good. Hey, wait till you get to those. Wait till you get the honey bread. Oh, wait till you make that. Oh, it's fire, dude. I mean, ridiculous. No, it's on one of those recipe cards. I promise, it's ridiculous. I mean, we're like, oh, this is like dangerous good. Like this is bad. Like, it's so far. No, but anyways, I look. If you love the classic style epic fantasy adventures series, guys, you're gonna love this series. Especially, I mean, we really fully flesh this thing out. Like, I mean, we do recipes. Like our characters, I think I am always hungry when I'm writing, so my characters are always eating. So there's always food. Just I think I get a little bit of that from Brian Jock in the Redwall series because boy, he knew how to write food. But I mean, if you love those classic style epic fantasy adventures with found family and adventure and magic and good versus evil, and at the end of the day, hope being the thing that we're left with, this series is going to be right up your alley. And look, I get it. It's a whole trilogy now. It's completed. So it's like, oh, dang, that's a lot of books all at once. Totally get it. So if you want to just jump in and like get to know some characters, I always tell people the Preludes collection, like the free Preludes that you can get at freefantasyfiction.com. I had to come up with an easy name for it because zsdiamanti.com is so hard to spell. So
freefantasyfiction.com.
freefantasyfiction.com. Super easy to remember.
Great URL.
Yeah, it's super easy to remember. You can go there. You can get all 7 Prelude stories about the characters that you're going to meet in Stone and Sky. And it's a great place to start on the adventure, a great place to meet some characters and get some vibes and kind of see if you're going to vibe with this classic fantasy. So I always tell people, go start there. It's like, it doesn't cost you anything. So go for it.
I think that's a fantastic closing statement right there. And I have to absolutely agree with you. I give this 2 thumbs up as well over here. There we go. So anyone who's watching this, ZS Diamanti is the new Brandon Sanderson, everybody. We said it here. And make sure to go check out the completed trilogy now of Stone and Sky because all the books are out now. They look beautiful. I'm super excited to continue my read into the series, and I can't thank you enough for joining me tonight. I had a blast. The biscuits were good. The tea was good. It was a good time.
Just all around goodness, man. Thanks for having me, of course.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Good night. Keep reading, and peace.